You ever have one of those mornings where you're just sipping coffee, minding your own business, and then bam, someone comes along and tries to turn your whole world upside down? That's exactly how it started for me. Out here in my little cabin on the edge of Willow Creek, a quiet patch of woods I thought was my sanctuary. Until Linda showed up. She came pounding on my door like she was auditioning for a war movie, yelling through the oak about how I had to pack up and leave right now or she'd call the cops and have me dragged out. Now, let me paint you a picture. Linda's standing there on my porch, all 5'4" of her, armed with a clipboard, a neon green visor, and the kind of glare that could curdle milk. She's the president of the Pine Hollow Homeowners Association, or so she declares, like she's announcing she's the Queen of England. Her voice is sharp, quivering with this righteous fury, and she's waving a violation notice like it's a court order, telling me my cabin me home doesn't fit the community aesthetic. Apparently, it's an eyesore, a blight, a threat to property values, and I've got 24 hours to get out before she brings the full force of her HOA bylaws down on me. I'm leaning against the doorframe, coffee mug warm in my hand, trying not to laugh as she jabs her finger at me like she's delivering the 10 Commandments. She doesn't even ask who I am, doesn't care. To her, I'm just some drifter squatting on her land, and she's here to save the neighborhood from my existence. Thing is, Linda had no idea who she was dealing with. This cabin, it's been in my family for generations, built by my great-grandfather when this whole area was just trees and dreams. The deed's locked in a safe under my bed, older than her precious HOA, stamped and signed long before Pine Hollow was even a twinkle in some developer's eye. But I didn't tell her that not yet. I just sipped my coffee, gave her a half-smile, and asked if she was lost, maybe mistaking my porch for a park ranger station. That vein in her forehead popped like a warning flare, and I knew right then this wasn't just about a cabin. This was personal, for her control was her oxygen, and I was choking her supply. Over the next few days, Linda turned it into a full-blown crusade. She sent me letters, the letters each one more ridiculous than the last. One fined me $200 for excessive pine needles in my yard, like I was supposed to vacuum the forest. Another claimed my porch swing was an unapproved structure. I pinned them to my wall like a gallery of bad comedy, my own little wall of shame. Neighbors started noticing the commotion, peeking from behind curtains, whispering over their morning coffee. Some thought Linda was finally losing it. Others were just here for the show. She'd marched through Pine Hollow in her golf cart, visor tilted like a general's cap, barking orders at folks for leaving trash cans out or planting the wrong kind of roses. And every time she passed my cabin, she'd glare like she could burn it down with her eyes. I let her dig her own grave, stayed calm, waved politely when I saw her, which only made her madder. One afternoon, I came back from a hike to find a tow truck idling in my driveway, Linda screaming at the driver to hook up my old Chevy. I strolled up, asked for his paperwork, none, of course, and told him he might want to check if he was on private property before towing anything. The guy took one look at Linda, then at me, muttered something about not getting paid enough for this, and peeled out, leaving her fuming in a cloud of dust. "I'll have your license," she screeched after him, but the neighbors watching from their porches just chuckled. She was starting to crack, and everyone could see it. The real fireworks came at what Linda called the Pine Hollow Preservation Forum. She'd plastered flyers everywhere, screaming about the cabin crisis in all caps, like I was some supervillain threatening their cul-de-sacs. The clubhouse was packed, folks munching popcorn, kids fidgeting, old-timers smirking like they knew something was coming. Linda took the stage like she was starring in her own movie, pacing, clipboard in hand, railing about community values and how my cabin was single-handedly tanking their property values. She pointed at me, called me an outsider, a squatter, a menace. I sat there, sipping water, letting her build her tower of accusations higher and higher. When she finally demanded I explain myself, I stood up, slow and deliberate, and pulled a single sheet of paper from my folder. The room went quiet as I held it up, the county seal glinting under the fluorescent lights. "Before we go any further," I said, "you might want to take a look at this." Linda snatched it from me, her eyes scanning the words, her face going from smug to ghost white in seconds. It was the deed proving this cabin, this land, was mine, free and clear, outside her HOA's reach. But I wasn't done. I pulled out another document, a boundary map, and dropped the bomb. Not only was my cabin untouchable, but half of Pine Hollow, including the very clubhouse we were standing in, was built on land my family still legally owned. The room erupted gasps, whispers, a few outright laughs. Linda sputtered, accused me of forging it, but I just shrugged and said anyone could verify it at the county office. An old guy in the back stood up, said he remembered my family from way back, before the HOA even existed. Others nodded, murmuring about stories their grandparents told. Linda tried to rally, shouting about unity and rules, but it was like yelling into a hurricane. Her own board members started bailing. One woman stood up, said she was done being bullied, and walked out to applause. Then another. Then another. By the time Linda realized she was alone, her visor had slipped, her clipboard was shaking, and her empire was crumbling. After that, it was like watching a wildfire burn itself out. Linda kept trying. She tried. She parked her golf cart outside my gate, scribbling notes like she was the neighborhood spy. She taped notices to my mailbox at midnight, accusing me of unauthorized moonlight one time, which still makes me laugh. But the neighbors were done. They started painting their fences purple, leaving lawn gnomes out, defying her just because they could. One night, she called a deputy, thinking she'd finally get me. I handed him my deed, calm as ever, and he turned to her with this look like, "Lady, are you serious?" He told her to back off, or she'd be the one in trouble. The crowd watching from the road cheered like it was the Super Bowl. The final showdown came on a crisp Saturday morning. I'm stacking firewood when I hear her voice, shrill as ever, at my gate. She's got 3 loyalists left, looking like they'd rather be anywhere else, and she's screaming that my padlock's illegal, that this land belongs to Pine Hollow. I walk down, lean against the post, and tell her she's trespassing. She laughs, actually laughs, and says she's calling the sheriff. I pull out one last letter from the county, read it aloud, slow and clear, confirming my deed and the fact that her precious clubhouse sits on my land. The crowd that's gathered, kids, parents, old folks, starts clapping. I slide the key into the padlock, snap it shut with a click that echoes like a gunshot. Linda's face collapses, her clipboard drops, and her last followers slink away. She stumbles back to her golf cart, muttering about lawyers, but we all know it's over. That night, the neighborhood felt different, lighter, like it could breathe again. Folks stopped by with pies, beers, handshakes, thanking me for standing up to her. They started talking about a new HOA, one that didn't rule by fear. My cabin, this old, weathered thing, became more than a home. It was proof you could stand your ground, that truth could outlast a bully. I sat on my porch as the sun set, cicadas humming, the padlock glinting in the dusk. Linda's still out there somewhere, probably plotting her comeback, but it doesn't matter. She lost because she built her power on fear, and fear only holds as long as people let it. So what do you think? Was I right to let her dig her own grave, or should I have shut her down sooner? Have you ever dealt with someone like Linda, some petty tyrant who thought they owned the world? Drop a comment. Tell me your stories. I am reading everyone. And if you liked hearing about this showdown, hit that subscribe button, share this with someone who'd get a kick out of it. Let's keep the conversation going.